What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here, and welcome to my brand new Boulder Cane video for Druid. It's essentially Boulder Vortex, Boulder Combo, Dolmen Stone, whatever the build is, but I'm calling it Boulder Cane. This takes advantage of the new unique Dolmen Stone, and it is actually pretty darn good. It does have a couple of caveats here and there, but we're going to go through the build, what I'd recommend doing, and also how you can get your hands on the specific uniques to be able to make this build work. So let's jump in. If you want to get your hands on the Dolmen Stone, you need to go and kill Druid in the footage behind me. You will be able to get this via killing him. It's in his loot pool. He also has Tempest Roar as well and a bunch of other uniques. And this is also the build in action going up against it. And I think this is a pretty solid build for being able to get rid of some of the bosses. And as you can see, I was able to get the amulet to drop from him. So that's where you're going to need to go. If you want to know how to spawn Juriel and also get the materials, you're going to need to get yourself Shards of Agony, which you can get from Grigor. In order to do this, you need to get kills with against I believe it's from Grigor, and the way that you access him is by getting Living Steel, which you can get from Helltide. So if you're going to go and do Helltides to get the Living Steel, then go and do that there. So let's talk about the build. First of all, we're going to go through the abilities because the skill tree is a little bit different, and you will have to change some things up if you haven't been running Lightning Storm like I have recently. Everything will also be in the description down below for the build link, but I do recommend watching the video so you understand what is happening. First of all, we have 3 points into Storm Strike to be able to get ourselves some vulnerable and also damage reduction, because we will be using this quite a lot. This isn't a leveling build, so I'm just going to go through every single aspect of the tree. We have 1 point into Heart of the Wild to be able to increase our spirit. We also have 1 point in Abundance because we were able to generate a 6 times multiplier for the amount of spirit that we generate. We need spirit a lot in this build to be able to get our boulders to go. And then also we have Wild Impulses, which we do 15 times multiplier of damage. And also our core skills do cost more spirit. We also have 1 point into Predatory Instinct and 3 points into Iron Fur. Then into this tree, this is where things kind of deviate a little bit. We also have no core skills because of an aspect that we're using. I'll talk about that in a moment, though. Earthen Bulwark all the way through to Preserving Earthen Bulwark, just to keep ourselves alive. We have Blood Howl all the way through to Innate Blood Howl. This is to generate spirit. We need this a lot. And then we go into our resistances. We have 3 in Ancestral Fortitude and 3 into Vigilance. We have nothing in the Companion tree. And this is where a big bulk of our points are going to be going. We have 1 point into Hurricane going through until you get Natural Hurricane, because we need that 15% chance to make enemies vulnerable consistently. And then this is affected by Elemental Exposure and Endless Tempest to be able to increase the duration of Cataclysm by times 15% multiplier, so it is able to go on much longer. Then we have 5 points into Boulder with a 6 point contribution from our gear. This will also go up with some of the other effects that we get active. We have Enhanced Boulder, and then you can go with either Savage Boulder or with Natural Boulder. Natural Boulder is, while you have Fortify, Boulder has a 20% plus critical strike chance, or every single time that the boulder does damage, it increases by 3%. So each time it does damage, you'd have to test to see what you feel. I've messed around with Savage Boulder at the moment, and it seems pretty damn good. We have 3 points into Crushing Earth, 3 points into Stone Guard for being able to fortify and also deal additional damage to stunned, knockbacked, and immobilized enemies, and also slowed enemies. And then we have Safeguard to be able to give ourselves a little bit more fortify. Then here we have 3 points in Defiance, 3 points in Natural Disaster, and 3 points in Resonance. And we have our ultimate as Petrify, because this allows us to get a big damage bonus multiplier against bosses and also against enemies that are stunned when they are stunned by Petrify. Lastly, we have Nature's Fury. Nature's Fury is the key thing that is going to help keep our uptime up on our Hurricane, because this build is very, very cooldown extensive. So it means that we always need to be getting that free trigger of Hurricane, because then it doesn't actually count as a cooldown. So we can just cast it whenever we feel like is necessary. The Paragon board, I'll go through in a moment. Spirit boons, you want wariness, you want swooping attacks for attack speed, you want Avian Wrath for that additional critical strike damage, you want bolster for being able to give ourselves more fortify, and then masochistic I have gone here because as you go higher up in nightmare tier dungeons, you're going to want this to be able to give yourself some healing, but also calm before the storm is also a good option as well. So before we go through the Paragon board, let's go through the aspects, because the aspects are important. First of all, the most important thing of the build is you need Dolmen Stone. This is what makes the build work. You can't run it without it, but I've showed you how you can actually get your hands on it. It does take a little bit of time to obviously farm out Druid, but once you get your hands on this, it has 3 ranks in Awe or Wrath skills, which can be 4. It also has resource generation, maximum life, and nature magic skill cooldown reduction, which is very helpful. When you cast a boulder, it's going to go round in the Hurricane whenever you cast a Hurricane as well. And that is why we are using Metaphoric Stone or Metamorphic Stone, because this is going to allow us to turn Boulder into a core skill and do a stupid amount of damage, because it increases the amount of damage that it actually does. You can go with a two-handed setup, which is what I have. No, I don't have it on me, but that with a staff, which gives you additional crowd control or damage to crowd control enemies. But I have gone with a 2 setup here just because I have the additional cooldown reduction, which I think is needed. See, as we're here, on your weapon, you want core skill damage, damage with earth skills or critical strike damage with earth skills, damage to crowd control, vulnerable damage potentially, core skill damage, those types of things. The stats will all be down in the description. And on here, on your totem, you want cooldown reduction, spirit cost reduction, and crit chance and resource generation. This is so important to be able to help the build function a little bit more. For our other pieces, before I go through the uniques, I have Raw Might on here, which will give you the ability to stun an enemy whenever we use after we hit 15 enemies with our werebear skills. And this will give us a chance to deal more damage with them. We also have the Circle of Natural Balance. This is essentially whenever you cast a Storm skill, you're able to increase the critical strike damage of Earth skills. Likewise, when you use an Earth skill, you're able to increase the critical strike chance of Storm skills. For both of the rings, critical strike chance, physical damage, lucky hit chance, resource generation is also quite good. Critical strike damage with earth skills or crowd control, once again, stats will be in the description. For our pants, we need to have 3 to 4 ranks of boulder on here, max life and damage reduction across the board, with disobedience to be able to help us stay alive. Ballistic on our boots, which will give us movement speed, fortify generation, damage reduction while injured, and spirit cost reduction is key here. You can also go for a Ghost Walker variant of this, but 100% you need these to be able to give you the additional ranks in your earth skills. And then on our gloves, attack speed, storm skill, cooldown reduction isn't the best, but lucky hit chance, critical strike damage is also quite good. And we also have symbiotic, which is nature's fury, allows us to trigger or like reduce our cooldowns. So for example, with Hurricane, this is the key element of the build. It has an 11-second cooldown. It lasts for 9 seconds. This means that when symbiotic procs, because of all the other cooldowns that we have, and when we're using our earth skills and when nature's fury procs, we're able to continually get this cooldown down to like 2 or 3 seconds to keep Hurricane active, to take advantage of our Boulder Metamorphic Stone and also Dolmen Stone. For the uniques, the mandatory one I would say is Vasily's Prayer, because earth skills are now werebear skills. They allow us to go into more damage scaling, and they also fortifiers as well. This also has really good stuff such as maximum life, damage while shapeshifted, lightning resistance, which isn't that necessary, and also overpowered damage. Then you can also go with Insatiable Fury. This is also a decent chest piece now because it has physical damage, total armor while in werebear form, overpower damage, and damage reduction while fortified. And when you're in this as well, your werebear form is now your true form and +3 ranks to all werebear skills. This is going to jack up our Boulder all the way to a stupid amount to be able to do even more damage. You can swap this out though and go with a regular chest piece. I don't have one on me right now, but it would just be a damage reduction chest piece, and you would use Disobedience on there and the aspect of like Might, I think it is, the one that basically his basic skills cause damage reduction whenever you use. For the Paragon board, the Paragon board is key because it is going to allow us to add a bunch of multipliers in. We're going to start off with Exploit. The Paragon board is obviously linked in the description if you want to follow it to the T. We have Exploit in here, and then we go into the Inner Beast area because this is going to allow us to, one, after we shapeshift, our costs are reduced because we're going to be using our Storm Strike, then going into Boulder. With Hurricane as well, we are going to be able to get a 30% reduction, which is very, very good. We have Undaunted here, which is going to allow us to get additional damage while fortified, and also gain damage reduction, and also do more damage while we are fortified. Then we head into the right tree and we get ourselves Territorial. This is going to allow us to do more damage against close enemies and have more damage reduction. Then we're going to also head to the left and get ourselves Ancestral Guidance to be able to get a 30% multiplier, which is really good after we spend a certain amount of spirit, which is 75 in this case. It's really good because when we spend a bunch of our boulders, we're going to be able to do a ton of damage. Then we go up into the Earth and Devastation. Now, this is the one that's been massively changed, similar to how Thunderstruck has been changed. Your Earth skills now deal a 10% multiplier, increased critical strike damage, and also it's increased by 20% increases the 20% of your damage versus crowd control bonus. So if you have those in your rings, you will be able to get even more damage with this. So that's what you're going to be looking for on the rings. We also have Earth and Sky because this gives us another multiplier as well. So we can massively do even more damage because the multipliers all stack on top of each other. Nature magic skills that do increase damage to crowd control or vulnerable enemies. Then we head into the tree, get ourselves Survival Instincts. While we're in werebear form, you deal 1% increased damage up to 50% for every difference between the current life between you and your enemy. So when enemies get lower, you're going to be able to do an even more damage multiplier. And then head down finally and get yourself Outmatched because we also have Spirit in here, which is another multiplier. And then we also have Spirit, which is another multiplier. So we have a bunch of damage scaling going off the chain on this build, which is really, really important. So the pros and cons of the Boulder Cane build is that it does run into some issues against some enemies because for some reason the boulder has a weird interaction with floating enemies sometimes, and also you have to stand to the side a little bit. It doesn't 100% hit enemies in the radius that you're trying to hit them, so you have to kind of line them up. And the other thing is this build gets absolutely destroyed by suppressors. It's the most frustrating thing when you're trying to push higher nightmare tier dungeons where the boulder just won't work inside the suppressor bubble, even if you are inside it, because the hurricane is actually quite wide, and then the boulder as well just doesn't do the damage that you need it to do, which is rather frustrating. So that's the biggest con. The biggest upside of the build is it has amazing single target damage, especially when it starts to ramp up, and also amazing survivability if there is no suppressors around. All you have to focus on doing is getting those cooldowns down, especially Earthen Bulwark, Petrify, and Boulder as well, and Storm Strike, to get that a cast of Hurricane to also reduce down the cooldown, and you will be able to continually have uptime. You do have to spam some basic attacks in there to be able to generate some spirit here and there, but regardless, you're going to be able to keep the uptime on the Hurricane and also the Boulder, and it's quite hilarious when you're running around absolutely destroying everything with these, just a whirling like earth ball of death, which is quite fun. So if you want to check the build out, go and check the link out in the description. If you have enjoyed this video and it's been helpful, please make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe if you're new, turn on the notification bell as always. And this has been It's Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.